Listen closely to the silence, for that is where true magic whispers. Today, the stars tell a story of a beauty so profound it rivaled the gods. A story of a devotion so pure it was rewarded with damnation. Today, we listen to the echo of Medusa. Before the monster, a maiden, where was a devout heart, now a stone gaze. Before the hiss of serpents, there was the whisper of a prayer. Between the prayers, a promise. After the promise, a fate. How does such a creature come to be? Not by choice, but by betrayal. This is not the legend of how a heroine triumphed. This is the echo of how a monster was made. Sun gilded the Parthenon's ribs. Incense rose like stitched light. Marble shone. Flames held steady. Silence kept its vow. My world was marble and incense, a symphony of white stone and whispered hymns. I was a priestess in the grand temple of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, my goddess. My life was a devotion, a quiet joy found in the meticulous care of her sacred altars. I tended the eternal flame, its warmth a constant promise of her presence. My hair, a cascade of sunlit gold. I braided offerings into my hair, laurel, saffron, a thread of gold, because faith lives in small, deliberate things, was my secret pride, a vanity I vowed to keep veiled from mortal eyes, a symbol of my purity, offered only to the divine. In my innocence, I believed the protection of my goddess was a shield of diamond, unbreakable and absolute. I believed the temple was a boundary the sea would never cross. But the sea is a sovereign with salt in its crown. Some virtues, in the cruel eyes of the gods, are not shields, but targets. A beauty meant only for the divine became a fleeting whisper among mortals, a whisper of a priestess more radiant than the statues she served, a whisper that traveled on the sea breeze, across the wine-dark waves, until it reached the ears of the sea itself. And what shield can protect you from the gaze of an ocean? He came with thunder in his blood and brine in his breath. Marble dulled, flames stuttered, silence thundered. Hands became tied, air became water, prayer broke on my teeth like foam. I felt his gaze first, a cold weight like the crushing pressure of the deepest trench. Poseidon. He stood at the entrance of the temple, the scent of salt and storm clinging to him like a shroud. He did not see me as a priestess. He saw me as a prize, another treasure to be claimed for his domain. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced my heart. I fled, my bare feet silent on the marble I knew so well, running deeper into the sanctuary, to the very feet of the colossal statue of my protector, Athena. I wrapped my arms around its cold base, believing with all my soul that no god would dare commit sacrilege in the sacred house of another. I was a child, and I was wrong. She rose in geometry and judgment. Owl-light, cold and exact. The city's order breathed in her. Medusa begged the law to remember the law. The marble floors, once polished by her devotion, were desecrated. The eternal flames sputtered as if choking on the sacrilege. The silence that followed was heavier than any stone. And in that silence, what becomes of a soul when its faith is shattered by the very gods it serves? It does the only thing it knows how. It prays. I don't know how long I lay there, a broken thing on the cold stone. When I could finally move, I crawled to the statue. Athena's eyes weighed me the way stone weighs a body, without mercy, without malice, only measure. I thought measure meant justice. My tears staining its base, washing away the dust of my shame. I prayed not for vengeance upon Poseidon, not for justice. I prayed for solace, for a sign from Athena that she saw my pain, that she understood. I prayed for the comfort of the goddess I had given my life to. And my goddess, she answered. She descended not in a shower of golden light, but in a wave of chilling ozone. Her eyes, usually so full of wisdom, held a fire as cold and hard as a star. She saw not her wounded servant, but a stain upon her temple's purity, a reflection of her own bitter rivalry with the sea god now imprinted upon her flesh. For in the cruel calculus of the gods, the vessel that is broken is often blamed for the breaking. And so Athena's judgment fell. Her decree fell like winter, not on the storm that trespassed, but on the shore that received it. Her voice was not a whisper of comfort, but a crack of thunder that shattered my soul. She spoke of my vanity, of my beautiful hair that had tempted a god's lust. My defense was a silent scream, trapped behind lips that could not form a word. And then the curse began. It was not a swift transformation. It was an agony. A fire starting at the roots of my hair, each strand thickening, writhing with a life of its own, a venomous, hissing life. My skin cooled, hardened, and my blood? My blood ran like the ice. Not the wave, the sand. And for a moment you feel it too, the unbearable tearing as your scalp writhes with 1,000 serpents, the horror as you look at your own hands, the skin no longer soft, but chilling, hardening, the first hint of gray stone in the making. You reach for a prayer and grasp a hiss. You try to scream for your goddess, but the only sound that escapes your throat is a long, guttural hiss, the sound of a monster being born. Heat blooms at the roots, then movement, not hair, hunger. Your scalp tightens, each filament unthreads into a living line. Between skin and air, a new grammar is written, curve, coil, strike. You touch your cheek, texture answers, not silk, not skin, but the memory of statues, lime and grief, onyx and warning, basalt where blush once lived. My name slips. A hiss picks it up. Something in me stares back and does not blink. I was cast out, exiled to an island at the barren edge of the world, a place of rock and salt, a tomb for the living. The beautiful face that had been my virtue, then my curse, was now a mask of terror. The hair I had once hidden in piety was now a crown of writhing death. My prayers were replaced by the constant, maddening whispers of the serpents. At first I wept, then my tears ran dry, and then they came. The world reshapes her into rumor and banishment. An island waits, salt in the air, ash on the tongue, stone in the heart. They came on ships with black sails, their shields polished, their swords thirsty. Heroes, kings, fools. They came not to save the exiled priestess, but to claim the head of the monster, to win glory by slaying the thing that the gods themselves had created. But what glory can be found in looking upon a tragedy so absolute? Waves teach the rocks endurance. I learn to breathe around the hissing. I drink from a spring that tastes like old coins. They saw my eyes that now held all the bitterness of a goddess's injustice. And in that gaze, they found their immortality as silent, screaming statues. A garden of stone heroes, their faces forever frozen in the moment of their arrogant triumph. They became the monuments of my sorrow, the only company I would ever know. An intruder comes, carries a mirror not for seeing truth, but managing stories. He looks down, as if his gaze were innocent. Mine is not allowed to be.
Word travels swifter than oars. A monster, a prize, a test for boys cosplaying immortals. And so the cycle was complete. The maiden who once tended a temple of polished marble now reigned over an island of cold, hard stone. The devout servant who once spoke only in whispered prayers now ruled through a gaze that commanded absolute silence. A line is not a wall until someone dares to cross it.
I do not look away. I lift my face. I choose a border I can keep. My world is marble once more, not the sunlit floors of a goddess I once loved, but the petrified faces of those who dared to look upon my pain. They call me a monster? Perhaps I am, for I have become the thing my goddess accused me of being. A sight so terrible, it turns all who see it to stone. But it was not my reflection that first turned my heart to stone. It was the silence of a goddess who refused to see her own. In the ledger of heavens, an omission gleams brighter than any entry. A goddess looked away. The stars fall silent again. In that hush, Choose what you dare to see.
The stars fall silent once more. May their echo guide your path.